Okay, I guess I'm live now. Sorry I'm a couple minutes late. Always thinking of last minute things. So, story of my life. Gonna wait just a couple minutes and see who gets on here, if we get people on here. If you're on and you can hear me, okay, please let me know. And okay, hi Gina, can you hear me okay? Okay, let's see. All right, I'll just wait another minute or so and then we'll get started. We've got a lot of ground to cover today. Okay. Yes, loud and clear. Great. Thank you, Gina. Okay. I never know. I mean, it seems like everything's fine on this end, but then, I don't know how it's out there for you. Okay, great. Hey, okay, we're getting some people in. Hello, Diane, Debbie, Lynn. Hey, Bonnie. Bonnie, did you see my message? I'll bring you some texture plates on Friday. Okay. Diane, Gina. Hello, hello. Okay. We are going to have some fun today, I hope, I think. We're going to be making some bangles, and I'm using a bangle press. You don't have to have one if you don't, I mean, the whole thing is about wavy bangles, but you can certainly make bangles that don't have the wave in them if you don't have the tools. But I will show you all of the stuff and then you can decide what you want to do. All right, let's see. Okay. All right, I guess I'm going to try at one point to use my hydraulic press, and that will require me to move the camera. And if we get disconnected at that point, we shouldn't, but if we do, just I'll try to get right back on, and you may need to do the same thing. So hi Diane. So and hi Nancy. So I will address that, if that happens. So let me see. Carol, hi Carol. Carol Hag, is your demo here? It's on, yes, it's on the Artisans Workshop Jewelry Mixed Media Community group page. Let me just respond to her here. Hopefully she can find it. It's a little confusing for people sometimes with these live demos. So I'm hoping she can find it. And you know what? I got the new format, the new Facebook format last week, and I know a lot of people have been getting it. Some people still don't have it. I'm not crazy about it. I am getting used to it, but they made some changes that I really think are kind of dumb. It seems like there's a lot of wasted space. And also, videos that we know as videos, they've changed that to media. So in the tabs above, where you find the files and members and all that stuff, it'll say media, and you click on that, and then from that you find videos. So I don't know why they can't leave well enough alone, but it's not my thing, so I can't do anything about it. So all we can do is just try to adapt, and maybe that's a good thing, at least for our older brains. Mine is challenged every day. So okay, it says live has 4 minutes to go, but freeze frame with the play button and nothing plays. Is this just you? It might be just you. I mean, anybody else can chime in if they're having problems with freezing. Looks good on my end, but a lot of things can attribute for for problems, your location, your internet connection, the weather. You know, it could be a variety of different things. So sometimes if you have problems with the broadcast, the best thing is to just get out of the page and then come back in, and usually everything is fine. But yeah, if there are problems, please let me know. I will check, you know, the screen every once in a while. I'm not too good at doing that and this at the same time, but I'll try. And you guys can at least let yourselves know too, if somebody needs some troubleshooting. So hello, Deb Henready. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so I'm going to just turn the camera down and show you some of the stuff that can be made with the bangle press. And here we go. Okay, and this thing wants to flop around. Okay, so hopefully you can see this okay. There are a bunch of different bangle presses with different waves. So whatever's available, you can choose through that. This one in particular just has the wave on one section, if you can see that. And then it's just flat all the way, the rest of the way around. And then there are the ones that are wavy, and the different presses have different amounts of waves, different styles of waves. Okay, let's see here. So I don't know if you can tell much of anything from here, but there are different wire patterns, which I'm going to show you that next. And they're just kind of fun. You know, you can wear them with plain bangles. You can kind of mix and match. They're just fun. And then there is the hoop press, the hoop and ring press. That is a newer item that you can make little wavy hoop earrings with, like that, or you can make little rings. There's a bunch of, there's 6 different ones of the hoop press that I know of, and I think there are a multitude of the bangle press styles. The smallest that I found that you can make with the ring press is about a 4.5, and that's just like perfect for my pinky right there. And then just like with any other ring, you can add little embellishments to them if you like. That's just something kind of fun that I did a few weeks back. So that's some of the stuff that we're going to cover today. I'm going to actually make a bangle from start to finish in copper today. I am not going to use the hoop press, but I'm going to show that to you in a minute. There's just not enough time to do all this stuff, so I'll show you what I can. All right, so I'm going to get that out of the way, and then I'm going to show you the presses here. First off, the wire dies. These are, I think they're bronze. I'm not positive. They're really dark, but that could just be because they're old, or I don't know. Or maybe they're steel. I really don't know. But they have different patterns inside. And I've got several different ones. They're all kind of the same in a way. You don't have to have a big variety unless you really like that. But, you know, you could just get by with one for starters and see how you like it. So that's the wire dies, which I'll show you how to use those. But if you don't want to invest in this stuff, you can just use metal stamps and a hammer and design, you know, stamp your own designs on your bangles. That's always an option. You don't have to do it this way. And then there are the bangle presses themselves, which are 2 honkin' heavy pieces of steel that fit together. They have a little knob in there. I don't know what else to call it, but at least it in my mind here. Okay, and they have, you can see the pattern on the outside, and they're all a little bit different. I'm just showing you one today, but they work in half like that. You put your bangle inside, and then you put that on there, and then you take it to the hydraulic press and you press it. I did try hitting it with a hammer this morning, and that works fine too. You just have to make sure that your bangle at that point that you're going to use this is annealed so that it's soft enough that the hammer will work with it. But you know, I know not everybody has a hydraulic press and they're not going to get one just for this, but you know, using a hammer is just another option so that you can use it. All right, so that's a bangle press, but like I said, there's a ton of different styles. This is the ring, the hoop and ring press. This is made by Wubbers. Oh, these other ones, Wubbers does make some of these, but the ones that I got were from India, and I will have resources on where you can find those if you desire. But these are specifically made by Wubbers. I don't know that there's anything else comparable to this out there. This is a 3-piece set, and it's got the little scallops in here. And like I said, there are 6 different patterns. And it has a little notch in here, and you line up the notch in there. And then you lay your soldered ring or hoop in there, and then put the top piece on. And this one you hit with a hammer. You do not put this one in your hydraulic press. The hammer is sufficient to do the job on this. So so that's how that works. Okay, pretty simple. All right, and this is nice because it keeps both pieces together, and nothing goes flying when you're hitting anything. So let's see. All right, let's see. Are there any questions up to here? Hi, Bev. Hello, Suzanne. Deb, you're so funny. Can I make a list of tools you don't have? Oh, sure. There's tons of stuff I don't have. I do have a considerable amount, but there again, like I've said before, I've been accumulating over many years. So it's not something that, you know, I just started doing and just bought all these things. First of all, I don't have the money for that. And, you know, it just takes time to accumulate. So every time I do a class or have good sales, then I buy myself a new toy. If I've done well. If I haven't, then I just usually wait. Well, no, that's not true. You know, it depends on what it is and the price point. So, but no, I don't have everything, and you know, it's okay. Hey, Rhonda. Okay. All right. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to do the whole shebang because I know that there's people on here that aren't or haven't done much in the way of soldering or any of this metal work. And so a lot of the terms are, or terminology is foreign to them. And if I say, you know, anneal this or solder that, they may, you know, like, well, what is that? So yeah, there's lots of good resources out there available, not just on Facebook, but on YouTube. There's all kinds of videos to help everybody in certain areas and techniques. And I certainly don't know everything. I wish I did, but no, I don't. And, you know, I just, honestly, I feel like I have a limited amount of knowledge, even though I've been doing stuff for a while, because I do so many different techniques that I don't really concentrate on any one particular one for all that long a time. I'm kind of like, you know, all over the place. So that's just me. But there are a lot of people who really get into one technique, they really learn it well, and I would say that they're more of an authority on this stuff than I certainly am. So okay, so what I'm going to use, oh, and before I go any further, I have already printed up a materials list and instructions with pictures of every step for you that you'll be able to find in the files that you can print. And I would suggest, if you're interested, print it up. I hope for these to stay up there, but you never know. So you might as well get them while you can. I know a lot of people are focusing now on doing paid classes. I haven't gotten to that point yet. Online, I'm just, I really don't know how to figure it all out. So it is a thought. But for right now, enjoy all the freebies. I'm happy to present them to you. So if I forget to say something during this broadcast, you should be able to get the information from that sheet that I'll have in the files. Excuse me. So what I'm working with is 8-gauge round copper wire. It's fairly thick. It makes a nice size bangle, and I have cut it to the length that I want. With bangles, you have to clear your knuckles when you're putting this on. So you want to make sure that it's large enough to pass through your knuckles. This one's a little bit tight, but I'd rather have it just a little snug, so that way it's not so big, you know, and hanging down so far on my wrist. But I kind of wiggle this one on a little bit. So the best way to measure for what you need is to take a piece of string, and I'm just going to eyeball this because that's how I am. Cut a piece of string off. And you know, I read about doing this because I was trying to figure out, well, how do you really measure for a bangle if you don't know? It's not your wrist size. And then trying to put the measure the string by yourself can be a challenge. So if somebody else knows an easier way, let me know. I mean, this is easy, but maybe it could be a little bit different. But I will tape this piece. I will put a piece of tape on my thumb knuckle, and you touch your pinky and your thumb together, and then bring the string up and over your knuckles and to where the string meets. Okay. And then this is where it meets. So I'm going to cut that off. That frog's in my throat today. Okay, and then I'm going to get a ruler, which I have right here on my mat. That's one of the reasons I like this mat. So I'm going to go with 9 inches on this. So then I want to make sure that my metal is cut the same length. Okay. So you just do a flush cut. I use these heavy duty cutters, which I also have the brand name on the handout, but you can use any heavy cutter if you want, but I use these a lot for a lot of different applications, so they were worth it to me to invest in these. Okay, so you just flush cut the ends before you cut it off. If your wire is longer, just flush cut the ends. Doesn't have to be anything great at this point. All right. So then I'm going to take a solder brick, and I'm going to lay, you try to get your wire as straight as you can. Okay, and put that on there. And let me turn on my fan because I don't want to set my fire alarm or smoke detector off. I've done that before. It scares everybody to death. Okay, so I'm going to put my wire on my solder brick and get my torch. And this is a heavier duty torch than the creme brulee torches that I've used a lot for making stack rings and smaller items. So you need a little bit more power, especially when you're working with copper, and 8 gauge at that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to anneal this piece of wire, which means to soften it, because it's very stiff right now. It's very hard to bend it and mold it, to imprint on it when it's hard like this. So by softening it up, or by annealing it, it softens it up and makes that possible to do. So hopefully you can hear through the noise of the torch. Well, there's really nothing to hear at this point, but this only takes a minute, a couple minutes actually. I'm gonna light my torch and just run it across the top of this wire, back and forth slowly, heat it up. If I had the lights out in the room, you could see the point where it's getting annealed. It sort of has like an orange glow to it, but you can't really tell that with the light on. I guess you can sort of tell once you've been doing it a while, but in the beginning, it's kind of helpful to know, or to see it without lights on. Just run it back and forth slowly so it heats up nice. And that ought to do it. I'll go over it one more time. Okay. Now I'm going to pick up my, I always use these utility pliers when I'm working with things like this because tweezers aren't as reliable. They're easier to slip with. And I just dunked it in water to quench it, and now it's not hot anymore. Now I can handle it. All right, so I'm going to move this out of the way for right now. And if you have lots of time, you could go ahead and pickle it now if you wanted to. If you're trying to conserve some time, which I do all the time, is I just take a piece of steel wool and I just clean this up just a little bit. It's not really necessary except for the ends where you want to solder. That has to be nice and clean and not have any fire scale on it, or you're not going to get a good solder joint on there. Okay, so now I'm going to press it. This is the part that I'm going to be moving the camera, and hopefully I do that okay. But before I do that, I'm going to prepare my wire mold. I use blue painter's tape. This stuff is so handy for so many different things. And I'm going to take my wire mold and just put that right in the channel where the design is and line it all the way up to the end, and then put my tape over it. And I want to make sure that I tape that nice and securely. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to the hydraulic press. I'm going to press this section, then I'm going to untape it, move the wire up to the next section, to this next length, and so on until I get to the end, okay? And because it's annealed, it should press really nicely. If you don't have a press, you can take like a 2-pound hammer, a heavy hammer, put this on top of a steel bench block, just like this, and pound the daylights out of it, and it will pick up the imprint. Okay, so that is another option if you don't have a press. Okay, all right, so here's the moment of truth here. I have to unplug. Oop. Oh, No, I don't want to take it out of the holder. Okay, let me just pick this whole thing up. Ugh. All right. And hopefully, I'm going to put a riser on here. I'm going to put this in the center of my press. I hope you guys can see okay. Let's see here. Just bringing that up. Until it gets pretty hard to push down. Release the press. And pull this out. Unwrap the tape. And there, you can, hopefully you can see the design is on there. So now I'm going to move it right up to where I left off. Put the new piece in there. And make sure that you're level, that your wire doesn't turn at all. Otherwise you're going to have a design on one area and then it's going to turn and you're going to have a design. You won't be happy with that. So tape it back up. Should have this one in there. Okay. All right, put that back in the press, in the center of the press. Starts to get hard to push down. Don't go crazy pushing it too much or you'll actually break your wire. All right, take the tape off of there. And now you've got the second length. It doesn't take too long to get through the whole piece. Okay. You do not have to re-anneal either because it hasn't affected. This part is stiff, real stiff, but this is not. It's still soft from the annealing that we did. I have a homemade press. The husband of one of my friends decided to challenge himself and make one. And he had never done anything like this before. And it actually came out quite nice. It's a little small though, as far as the depth. I can't get like really tall guys in there. But but it was nice that he did that for me. I truly appreciate it. Now I just have a teeny little piece that didn't quite clear, so that might be a little trickier to get that piece in there. I'm going to just hold on to it. It'd be great to have an electric press. See, that's one thing I don't have, Deb Henready. I don't have an electric press. Okay, so I got that in there. Oh, I actually smashed that a little bit too much. I may cut that off, make this bangle just a little bit shorter. Okay, let's go back to the table. Put my power cord back in. Are we still all together? Oh, okay. Okay. Harbor Freight? Harbor Freight for what, Deb? Okay. Oh, okay, I see, for Suzanne's question. Okay. All right, so I've got my piece all stamped. And now I'm going to just straighten it out a little bit, and I'm going to just peel that tape off. There's a little tape residue on the back from the packing tape. That's okay. It's easy to remove just with a fingernail. And then I'm going to finish my ends. Well, I did turn it just a tiny bit. All right, I'm going to snip off this little end here because I kind of smashed it, and then when I go to solder it, that's not going to line up too well. So this one's not going to fit me. This is going to be smaller, but that's okay. I'm sure somebody out there, you know, it will fit somebody's wrist. So, okay, so the next thing is I need to file both of these ends flush because I'm going to prepare to solder after that. So for that, I use this handy dandy miter cutting jig. These are probably $60 to $65, something like that. And I was hesitant at first, now this was a long time ago, to get one because of the cost. But I'll tell you, it is worth its weight in gold. It just makes filing the ends to solder something really, it's really good. It just makes everything nice and flush. So to use one of these, let's see if I can get in here. Okay. Hang on just a second here. Okay. All right, so there's this little square in here. It's like a little stop. Okay, so I'm going to line my wire. I'm going to put my wire in here and have just the very end of it. I'm pressing it up against that little block, that little stop, so that way I know that my wire is straight in there, and just have a little bit hanging out. I have to put this down on the table. And then I'm going to screw this little knob here. Yep. Make a liar out of me here. Okay, screw both knobs down. Then I'm going to take a flat file. This is a number 2 file. And I'm going to file in a couple different directions because I want to make sure that I get every area of that. Put my eyeballs on here. like it nice and flat, and you can feel the tug of the wire that you're sanding or filing, and you want to keep doing that until you can't feel that wire anymore, until that file absolutely just glides right over with no drag whatsoever. It takes a few minutes, but it's a few minutes well spent. Okay, so I'd say that's pretty darn good. All right, so now I'm going to undo that. Take my wire out, put my other end of the wire in. Make sure you're nice and straight. You see there's just a little nub sticking out. Hopefully you can see that. And same thing, just file. Ooh, I hear some thunder outside. I hope it doesn't screw up our connection. Well, we certainly need rain, so I welcome the rain. Just no internet problems. I guess there's a couple different models of this cutting jig. I got the lower end model. I heard that there's a more expensive one out, but if you can believe that. But this is just fine, especially for what I do. It's just fine. Okay, so that's nice and flush. All right, so I'm going to remove that. That's all I'm going to use that for. Now I'm going to re-anneal this. And on the edges, or on the ends, I should say, sometimes there's just like the slightest little burr, and I just take an emery board and kind of just clean that up a bit. Doesn't need much of anything. But you want to get your solder joint as clean as possible. Okay. All right, so now this is really hard. It's too hard for me to shape into a mandrel, into a bangle at this point. So I'm going to put it back on my solder brick and that ought to do it. Quench this in the water. Okay. And there again, you could pickle it now if you wanted to. but I'm trying to save time, so I am just going to use my steel wool and just clean this up a little bit. And then on these ends, I'm going to take that emery board and ever so lightly clean that fire scale off of there and make the metal clean again for my solder to stick. Okay. Okay. So now this is nice and soft. And move this stuff out of my way here. Now I'm going to take my bracelet mandrel and form this with my fingers. And if you don't have a bracelet mandrel, you could use half round pliers, which, let me show you. Half round pliers are very flat on one jaw, and on this jaw they are slightly rounded on this side. And you put this slightly rounded part on the inside of your bangle to help with the curve. Okay, so I will use those in a minute, but then I will take a rawhide mallet hammer those ends. The shape of this really isn't all that important. At this point, it's just that you want to get your ends together so that you can solder, okay? So this is where I'm going to take this half round plier and pull it in there a little bit. And this is just like a jump ring. You know, you can overextend it a little bit and then pull it back so that it meets up. You're just trying to get those two ends to meet together with no daylight that you can see through them, just as tight as you can. Takes a little futzing, but that's okay. A little extra futzing now is better than being unhappy with a solder joint that's moved and it's not so nice. And also too, just a note that when you're pressing these, sometimes you may press a little harder in one section than another, so that when you go to join your wires together, you might have a piece that's a little bit flatter in the area than the other side that you're trying to join. So, you know, that can be a little bit tricky, but you do the best you can. You try to get it as clean of a connection as possible. And okay, so I think I'm going to stop messing with it. All right, and I'm going to screen is green. Ah, rain. Okay. Is everybody else okay? Oh, you guys lost me? Whoa. Okay. Sorry, technical difficulties. It was actually operator difficulties. Okay, let's see. There's a 4-inch miter vise now, Deb? Wow. Can you put your thing in a vise, Carrie? Yeah, I imagine you could. I just haven't, but yeah, I imagine you can. All right, you guys seeing it okay now? Okay. Okay, so I'm ready to solder this. It's not perfectly round right now. Like I said, it doesn't matter. What matters is your connection where you're going to solder. I always put the solder split towards me so I can see where I'm at. I'm going to take some hard sheet solder and cut off a little snippet. You don't want a lot for this. You want a small piece because number one, you don't want your solder flowing over your project, which makes more cleanup for you later. But especially because this has the design texture in it, the solder can flow into that design, and that's a lot harder to clean that out. So this is just a teeny little piece of solder, and I'm going to get my flux. All right, I'm going to flux the whole thing. Flux my solder. All right, now I'm going to place that little pallion of solder under the split, sort of halfway in the front, halfway in the back, but actually I'd rather have a little bit more in the back because of the design. All right, where'd you go? Oh, here it is. It's just slipping around in that flux. All right, I should have probably flattened this bangle a little bit so the solder will flow up. Just a sec. Grab me one of these little hummingbirds and see if that will help pull that down a little bit. I'm also not working at my soldering station, so there's that. Okay, so that's going to hold it down just a little bit. These little hummingbirds are great to help you hold your work in place. Okay, so I'm going to solder, or to warm the metal all the way around. Copper takes a lot more heat than silver does. So I'm just going to circulate, not too fast. And this little steel hummingbird takes a little bit of the heat also. So it takes a little longer for everything to heat up properly. I'm going to zoom in on that area. There's my solder pick. Here it is. Sorry. Let the solder move just a tiny bit. There we go. I like to hit it from behind and in the front, and it's soldered. Okay. So now the hummingbird is screaming hot, so we want to be careful of that. And just give that a second. And not quench it. Yeah, and you know, it's soldered, but it flowed. It flowed a lot on the top here. And you see how small that piece was? It was really small. So I've got some cleanup to do on this. All right, but it's soldered. So what I would normally do next is then throw this in the pickle and let this get cleaned up. But I will just go ahead and start cleaning this right here. And what's that spray flux, Carrie? This is Prips. This is Prips Flux. I put it in a little spray bottle. It comes in a big container. It's really good flux. Been using it quite a while, and I'm very happy with it. So, okay, so what I'm going to do to get some of this solder off is I've got a half round file here, and I'm just going to start to clean that. If I would have had my rubber block over here, I would be working on top of that, but I forgot to put that out as well. A lot of times what I do, and I don't know if this is an accepted practice or not, but I clean these up with a coarse white rubber wheel inside. It makes short work of cleaning stuff up, and on the sides. I wouldn't use it so much on the outside though, because you're gonna take away your design. So this is the problem with using too much flux, or solder, sorry. You can never use too much flux, I don't think. But that's the problem is cleanup. And this is copper, and I've got silver solder on it, okay? There is such a thing as copper solder, but it's not copper. It still, when it flows, it's silver color. And I don't think it's as reliable as silver solder. So I just go ahead and I use the silver, and then whatever excess I can't get off, then I plate it with some old hot pickle, which I will show you, and some steel wool. And it covers that up pretty well. And then I almost always, excuse me, I forgot to bring my water with me. I almost always patina these. So then I put liver of sulfur on top, and you can barely tell. I mean, you can tell if you get in there really close, but it's not that noticeable. So anyway, I would just clean that up as much as possible with that. Like I said, I would hit it on the rubber wheel on the flex shaft. And you know, whenever you're doing these live things, it seems like there's always the stuff that you don't want to happen happens. So, you know, if I was doing this off camera, it probably would have been just fine, but who knows. So I'm going to do a little bit of that, but I really don't want to take off that design. So there's that, okay? Any questions to this point? Let's see. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just clean this up with my steel wool. It doesn't make up for pickle, but you know, it's still, for the purpose of this demo, it's good enough in my opinion. All right. So now I will take my bracelet mandrel back, push that down. Straighten this all up with the rawhide mallet. You could use a plastic mallet too if you have that. And then I turn it over and do the same again. Okay. Now I'm going to take this bracelet all the way to finish with this, but then once the broadcast is over, then I'm going to put it in the pickle and clean it up properly and make sure that it's plated properly. But you guys get the idea. That's basically what I wanted you to get. Now see this, I made this a little bit too small. Well, I knew that was going to happen. I started off with a little bit smaller piece of wire anyway. So, but you know, it'll fit a lot of people that have smaller hands than I do. All right, so at this point, you could plate it, but I'm going to put it in the press and go through those steps. And then I will plate it, so that way you can see what I mean by that. So I'm going to center this. It doesn't necessarily have to be flat. It's going to become flat very soon. Okay, and I'm going to line that notch up with the notch that's on the bottom. And here's the other thing. You see how it's almost to the edge, but there's still a little room. This is, I think, about an 8.5 inch piece of wire. The ones that I fit me better, it's closer to the edge. So there is a limit on how big you can make your bangles with this press. But it still makes a substantial size. So that's just another thing to consider. All right, so I'm lining that up. Well, you know, I really should have that flat. Hang on a second. Just thumper back here. Okay, that'll do that. There, much better. Oh, come on. They're not generally this difficult. There we go. All right, so I want to make sure that it's pretty much in line all the way around, that it looks even. Okay. Now, I'm just going to take this to the press myself, but I'm not going to move the camera for that. But this is how it's going to go into the press. I'm going to press it. I'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. All right, I'm back. can see that it's smushed in there. Maybe you can't tell. All right, so now I'm going to release it. Oh, I didn't need the hammer. Good. Okay, so now it's pressed. Okay. It's got all that waviness in there. And oddly enough, it doesn't change the size. You know, I would have thought that with all these twists and turns, it doesn't change the size. But I should point out, when you're using the wire dies, when you're done with that whole length of wire, remeasure it, because it will have stretched a little bit and you will want to cut that little extra length off. Okay, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that in my handout. So yeah, keep that in mind, because if the design stretches, if the wire stretches, then your bracelet's not going to be the right size. Okay, so so that's that. Now, all right, let me get rid of this stuff. I've got my, oh dear. It's hard to line up all this stuff in the right way to have it available without having to get up and down a gazillion times. But I've got my hot pickle. This is old pickle. I don't know if I can bring it over here enough. Let's see. Can you see it? Okay, I've got it on a cup warmer. It's blue, and it was clear. When it was fresh, it was clear. I always save old pickle. I just keep it in a jar, and it does get like it looks like a snot texture on the top. If it's really old, that's just something that happens, but it pretty much kind of melts when you put the heat back on it. And then I just take a piece of steel wool and sink that into the hot pickle, and then find where my silver solder is right here, and I'm going to put that inside the pickle jar, or the little bowl, and then put another piece of steel wool on top and let that sit. Now, generally, can you see that okay? Just so you get the idea of what I'm doing for people that don't understand that. The hot pickle has, I don't know, I don't understand all the science and everything, but the pickle picks up metals, you know, when you're using it, and there's like I don't know, there's copper in there, whatever, and by putting the piece of steel or steel wool, you could use a steel nail. It doesn't necessarily have to be a piece of steel wool, but I always save my steel wool that is kind of used up and keep it in a separate container. And then when I need to plate something, I use that with the old pickle. And it works pretty well. So I'm just kind of sticking with that process. But, you know, normally I would leave this in longer than 10 minutes, but we'll just leave it in a few minutes. So hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And you're using your copper tongs as well. So, and it's funny because like the blue goes away after this is in there for a few minutes with the steel. Like I said, I don't understand all the chemical properties to this stuff, but I just can't be bothered with that stuff. Some people really enjoy knowing about all that, but it's like my brain doesn't work that way. So, all right, let's get you back on here. Oh, did I lose you? Oh no, here we're still there. Sorry. Okay. Where did I get the bangle die? Carrie, these we got, I want to say, at Black Magic Silver Shop Facebook group, but I contacted Krista that runs that group last night, and I asked her if she had any of these in stock, and she said no, but she'll probably get some more. But you know, this stuff comes from India, so it takes a while if people don't have it already in stock. But I did an Etsy search last night, and they are available on Etsy as well as the wire dies. So if you just do a search on Etsy looking for bangle presses and wire pattern dies, some come up. So, and I think the prices were pretty much in line with what I paid. I think a few years ago there were some people that were really marking them up, but I can't say that for sure. I don't know what their costs were for shipping, so I really shouldn't have even said that. You don't know what people got things for. So, but just, you know, if it's something that you really want, you know, I think that they're still, well, I know they're still available. And you don't have to have a bunch of different ones. Contenti has the bangle press. Okay, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, I know Wubbers makes some, and they may carry the Wubbers brand. I know that they're, I think Otto Fry has the ring hoop, and yeah, the ring and hoop die. I know they have those in stock. But you know, if you can get one, and you know, that'd be okay too. I would think, I haven't tried it, but I would think if you made your bangle large enough, you could take, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of those pliers, but I used them the other day to flute some metal to make some ruffles. And I would think that you could use those as well, as long as your metal is annealed. It won't be the same pattern, of course, but it's something that you could try and get something different. Okay. Any other questions while we're waiting? Carol, I was on your page, I missed it all. You can replay this when I'm done. You can go back to the media section. I had said that earlier when Facebook changed a lot of the formats. I guess they're all going to be changing this month. Some people just got it done earlier, and you had the option to go back to the old format, but they said sometime in September it was going to change. Everybody was going to be doing the same thing. So anyway, on the top of the group page, there's like a menu bar that goes across. And one of the things, let me see here. It says across the top, under the banner, it's got about, discussion, announcements, rooms, members, media, and files, and more, or whatever. So you'd go under media, and once you hit media, there's a video section, okay? And you click on that, and that's where you'll find the videos. They could have just put videos, but they made it media. And so what are you going to do? All right. Okay, yeah, but all of these are replayable. And then there will be the handout in the file section. And they are formatted for Microsoft Word. So hopefully you can open it. If you cannot open the file, if you don't have Word and can't open, let me know. Deb Henready has been kind enough to offer to change the files into the PDF format for me. I need to get a new Microsoft Office program, but I just hate to shell out the dough. That's the truth. I just do. I'd rather buy a new tool. So, but let me know if it's a problem. So I don't want to offer you guys things and then you can't use them. So, okay. So anything else? Catherine, Auto Fry has both? Okay. And like I said, I would imagine that those are the Wubbers brands. And I don't know how many styles, but you know, how many styles do you need, honestly? So I have a few, but you know, my accomplice in crime, Rhonda, and I buy a lot of stuff together. So we share, and that way we're able to get more for the money, and it works really well for us. So, all right, let's check on the plating, and let me put my eyes back on here. Rinse this off a little bit. And yeah, I don't know how well you can see this, but it plated it really well. You can't see that silver that was on there before. So yeah, that works really good. Okay, so that's plating, you know, the simple kind of plating. So I'm going to clean this off with some steel wool. Inside and out and on the edges. And then I've got liver of sulfur ready and waiting. These little cup warmers are great. They've been a good help while I'm doing these demos. All right, so let's get that out of the way and bring over the stinky stuff. Pour some liver of sulfur in here. This is, I like to use the liver of sulfur gel. I used to use the rock form, but I found it very unreliable. It gets old really fast. If it gets exposed to air very much, it loses its potency. All right, so I'm going to stick the bangle in the liver of sulfur to patina. Water bowl over here. It gets nice and dark really fast. Yeah, I really like the gel. Now you can neutralize it with some baking soda in your water. I didn't put any in here for right now, but a lot of people like to do that. Okay. So, and the steel wool that I use is 4O. It's 4/000. 4 zeros. And I typically use gloves when I'm doing this too, because it gets your hands kind of yucky. And I usually wear a mask too, because I don't like breathing these fibers of the steel wool. It's like the older I'm getting, the more conscious I am, and kind of wish I would have taken a little bit more precaution when I was a little bit younger. But, you know, live and learn. So after it's cleaned, then I would typically throw it in the tumbler for about 10 or 15 minutes. It doesn't need a whole long amount of time. But I've found by tumbling, you know, you don't get any of this liver of sulfur residue like on your skin or anything like that. So, but yeah, I mean, this looks pretty nice, I would say, in my opinion. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. The silver is done exactly the same way as the copper and the other bangle die. You would just, cut your wire to the length that you'd want it. You are limited again in size here. This is about as big as you're going to get. And I wanted to measure this and I forgot. Let me get my caliper and tell you how big that is. Okay, where's my caliper? Oh, here it is. All right. Okie dokie. Okay, this is about 36 millimeters in diameter. Yeah, about 36 millimeters is about as large as you're going to get for this. Now, on the other hand, and that makes us a substantial hoop. It's kind of like what I've got in here. This one's a little bit smaller. But, if you wanted to make a bigger one, here's the difference. In here, you've got all this dead space in here, so you would have to make your, this just fits inside, but that really wouldn't work. That's not on the edges. You'd just make your hoop a little bit larger, and then you could get inside here. But that makes a pretty good size, pretty good size hoop. So it just depends on what you want. So there is that, and then let's see my ring here. For this size, you couldn't really get much smaller than that. And I want to say this is a 4.5. So you have a few limitations, but you also have the ability to do a lot of different things. It can make some very cool things. Where's this other? Oh, this ring. This is a ring that I soldered a water casting on, and then I put a little tube setting in here with a crystal, and it's just kind of a funky little wiggly ring. I really like it a lot. And anyway, so there's that. Now this typically I use 14 gauge sterling wire on these. You can use fine silver too on them. And now I did make a couple of rings with 12 gauge wire because I thought, oh, it'll be wider, but it's also thicker, and to me it just doesn't feel quite as nice on my fingers. But there again, it's whatever you like, and go from there. So if you have any last questions for me, please get them up here, and if not, you can always ask questions on the replay, and then later on I will answer them for you to the best of my ability. I don't know what I'm going to do next week, guys. I kind of like to know from you what you'd like. I know we talked about enameling at one point, and I don't mind doing that. It's a little bit more involved. There's a lot to cover in enameling, so it wouldn't be just like one demo. It would be multiple on different techniques. But there again, I would hope that there's interest before I do those. And it takes a considerable amount of work to put these things together, which I'm fine with. I enjoy doing it, but I want it to be stuff that you want to be seeing. So I froze again. Yeah, well, I'm going to blame this one on the weather, because usually the broadcasts are pretty good from here. Water casting, I can. It's very simple. Deborah Mauser did it on her Friday Freebies page. Well, I think it's changed now. It's Friday Freebies for the Metalsmith, I think. Um, but I mean, she did it on there, and that's where I, you know, I learned to do it. Well, I did it before. Rhonda and I did it, I don't know, a year or two ago, maybe, when we were in Tucson, and it was a little bit different method, but I really like the way Deborah did it with the wire. But yeah, I mean, I can go over that. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, you know, that is doing stuff. We're all I think we're all trying to do different things, but they're pretty addicting. The problem is the silver's expensive right now, and you can blow through a lot of wire doing those. So, but that's not like that's not like a real big demo. So I don't know. I'll toss that around. But yeah, any suggestions? You know, I know I say this every time, but you know, I want to present what you want to know about. So within my abilities. So anyway, okay, well, Catherine, you asked how would you search for the pattern bars for wire. I just put, I think it was wire impression or wire pattern impression dies. I think that's what I put in the search bar, and they popped up. And also the bangle bracelet presses. You can put that in there as well and see what they have. But I know I saw some last night, so I know that they are out there. So, okay, guys, well, I guess that's it for today. And like I said, if you have any questions, just message me on the group, or, you know, ask a question in the group, whatever. You can always send me a private message too if there's something else you want to discuss, or whatever. And I think that's it. So do I ever do hammering on brass or steel impression dies? Yeah, I mean, you can, I don't know if you heard me earlier or not. I mean, you can use, let me show you the hammer I use. It is a 2-pound, I think it's a 2-pound. Yeah, 2.5 pound that I got at Harbor Freight. And you can use the wire impression die. You tape your wire on here like I did with the blue packing tape. No, that's fine, Diane. Yeah, you put that on there and then have a steel bench block to work on top. Tape your wire on here, make sure your wire is annealed, and then you can pound the daylights out of it with this, and it works. But make sure your metal is annealed. So yeah, that's an option. You don't have to have a press. The ring and hoop mandrels, you don't need a press for. You're not supposed to use a press. You're supposed to just use a hammer on these. And I tried using a hammer on these, and it worked. But again, the metal needs to be annealed. Okay? All right, guys. Oh, and you know what? Since I'm not doing sales and stuff outright, if anybody is interested in these wire bangles, I have a bunch of them, and I would just need to know your wrist size, well, not your wrist size, the size around for your knuckle to gauge the right size for you. But I'm going to sell them for $18 a piece, $4 shipping. I don't know about international unless international wants to pay the extra postage. And I'm sorry, guys, for international people, because I just mailed something to France the other day, and it was $15 for postage, which I guess wasn't really that bad. But, you know, they get nailed pretty hard for shipping. So I try to take that into consideration. I just do like the bubble bags, and for $4, you could fit a bunch of these in there, and you know, I think that's a pretty fair price for that. So anyway, yeah, just message me if you want any of these things, and I'll make sure it happens for you. All right, so until next week. Oh wait, how about copper sheet on bigger designs? You mean like on impression plates, like that would go in the rolling mill, Diane? Because yeah, you can do that. You can. You don't have to have a rolling mill. Excuse me. You don't have to have a rolling mill if you want to use those impression plates. Um, and I mean that's something that I could to go over, but it takes a lot more work. You know, it's more labor intensive. But yes, you can put your annealed metal on top of your impression plate, and people use a variety of different things. Maybe a piece of leather, or lead. I've used lead on them. People get freaked out when you say using lead, but if you wash your hands after you've touched it and you're not touching your face or whatever, I mean, you're fine. You're not eating it, you know. You're not going to be licking your fingers afterwards. At least I would hope not. But yeah, I mean, it could very well be done. It's just, yeah, foil, Jennifer, foil works. It could very easily be done. Well, I shouldn't say easily. It takes a little bit more muscle to do that. It takes a little bit longer. But yeah, that could be done. So yeah, post all of your ideas if you have ideas for me to present stuff, and I'll mull it through because I'm kind of, you know, at a loss. Oh, I was thinking about maybe those little hammered dishes. Reach over here. This is another little thing that you could make little bowls. These are really small, you can see. But I think they're 3-inch. That you can, now I have a pancake die for the 3-inch, but you could easily get a circle template and cut these out with some metal shears and fashion those into little bowls. And then you could go one step further and put enamel on them too, but that requires a kiln. So I don't know, you know, toss that stuff around in the group, and I'll come up with something in the next day or two, because it takes me pretty much all week to figure it out and then write up all the instructions and stuff. So, okay, guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And I will see you next week back on Wednesday at 2:30. I have a doctor appointment tomorrow that I could not change. So that was the reason for today's change in time. Okay? All right. See you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.